I have talked about this before. I promise you I'm going to talk about it again because it's just that important. I even talked about it in my last video. So I want you to listen closely to what I'm going to say next. In the rest of the video, we're going to dive into why this is the case. If your goal is to completely get rid of your anxiety, you are going to be disappointed. Before we dive into why that is the case, let me take a second to just introduce myself. Hey, my name is Katie. I am a licensed anxiety therapist. I have a private practice here in Ohio called Cedar Rose Counseling and Wellness, and I love to make these videos and meditations to hopefully make mental health a little bit more accessible, or improving your mental health a little bit more accessible, easier to understand, and ultimately, this whole channel is to just help you guys to cultivate peace and confidence, and in general, feeling a bit more in control and understanding of the anxiety that you experience or the things in your life that are leading to the anxiety that you experience. Okay, so why is it that if I want to get rid of my anxiety, I'm gonna be pretty disappointed? Like, why is that not a realistic goal to have? Well, let me tell you, anxiety is your body's protective mechanism. It is hardwired into us, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. Our body was designed with so many different features. It knows how to continue breathing. It knows how to just automatically digest the food that we're giving to extract the nutrients that we need. And it has this ability to protect us. And it does this in a lot of subconscious ways. But then, of course, if it identifies that there is something that, hey, maybe you want to watch out for, this is like a perceived threat, a perceived danger in our brain's mind, that is when we're going to start experiencing those physical symptoms, that physical discomfort that many of us are wanting to avoid. Now, because anxiety is just innately wired into us, for our own safety, survival, and protection, I'm sure that you've experienced at least some of these symptoms at some point in your life, whether you remember or not. These really uncomfortable symptoms that many of us like to just either avoid, or this is the part of anxiety that we really want to get rid of. These are like our racing thoughts that are hyper fixated on the threat, on these situations, or maybe we are creating situations in our mind because we're trying to prepare for possible things that could go wrong, but it's really annoying to constantly be in our mind and not really feeling present in daily life and the things that we want to do, our responsibilities, and of course, our relationships. And of course, there are other uncomfortable physical types of sensations. Anxiety is very much a full body experience because it's wired for our protection. I'm going to keep coming back to that point. Some of the other uncomfortable physical sensations that we like to try and get rid of are our heart rate increasing, our breathing becoming shallow, maybe we get a little bit sweaty, or we can have a ton of discomfort when it comes to our GI tract, our digestion. Maybe we feel nauseous, we have to rush to the bathroom whenever we feel that anxiety start to come on. The important thing to remember, and really the point of this whole video, is that I want you guys to know that every single one of these uncomfortable physical sensations that we experience, and even the thoughts that are in our mind that are racing and that do tend to cause us to be not super present in our daily life, all of these things have a purpose for our survival. Every single one of them has a biological purpose that is meant to protect us. So we're gonna run through a couple of those so you guys know why we have to experience these uncomfortable physical sensations, what they're actually trying to achieve, so maybe we can think about them in a little bit of a different way. Okay, so let's just run through a couple of the primary uncomfortable physical sensations that we commonly associate with anxiety, so we know why these things are happening, and again, so we can change the way that we think about them, and hopefully this process helps to decrease any shame that you might experience for experiencing these physical sensations, or even just anxiety in general. There is literally nothing wrong with you that you're experiencing anxiety, okay? I just want you guys to know that first and foremost, and that's kind of the purpose of going through this educational stuff when it comes to anxiety, because I know that there's so much shame out there. There's such a stigma against experiencing anxiety. Society kind of tells us that we're weak if we have anxiety, but this just isn't the case. It means that our brain thinks that we're in danger like all the time if we're experiencing anxiety. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It just means that we need to learn how to care for ourselves in a little bit of a different way so our body and our mind can start feeling safe again. And there's a lot of ways that we can start to learn how to do this, and many of the videos that I share on here are gonna hopefully help you guys to do just that. Okay, so let's just start with racing thoughts, because that's a pretty common one that we experience when our body does go into this fight, flight, freeze, protective response. We tend to have racing thoughts that are fixated on whatever the possible problem is. And this is because the brain is like, hey, I think that there's a problem. I'm gonna fixate on this so I can figure out how to either fix it or find a plan to make sure that I'm safe through this so I can kind of get away or escape or whatever it is. It's gonna wanna fixate on that experience or on that potential problem or threat because it's trying to keep you safe. Another one that's pretty common is our heart starting to race. This happens because when our brain identifies a threat, it kind of goes into this mode of, okay, I'm gonna need to either fight or get away, or probably the two primary. And then of course we have freeze and fawn responses too, but we're probably gonna experience this increased heart rate just in case we need to try and get away or fight our way out of whatever the possible danger might be. So our heart rate starts to increase so it can pump more blood to our muscles, so our muscles have enough oxygen and whatever they need in order to actually run away or to fight or whatever our body needs to do to keep us safe. This is often one of the primary reasons that can lead to panic too, because if we don't know why our body's doing what it's doing when we're experiencing anxiety, we can kind of fixate on our heart rate is increasing and we think that something's wrong, right? Maybe we think that there's something wrong with our heart or whatever might be the case, and there's all these doubts and questions running through our mind. Maybe we think we're having a heart attack or whatever. We think that we need to go see a doctor, but in reality, your body's just doing what it needs to do to help keep you safe because it thinks that you are in grave danger, even if you're not. And honestly, if we were having a heart attack, we wouldn't be experiencing an increase in heart rate. We would be experiencing a elimination of one, so that's always good to keep in mind too. Another thing that can happen is our breathing will become shallow. So we are breathing faster generally. Maybe it's hard to get a deep full breath because we're breathing faster. And similarly for how our heart rate is increasing to pump more blood, this is to get more oxygen into our system. But here's the catch. As we are increasing our breath, right? Our breath is increasing, it's becoming more shallow so we can get more oxygen into our system. If we are not physically active, if we are not trying to fight or run away, right? That means that we are also producing more carbon dioxide because we're taking in more oxygen. But if we aren't engaging in any physical activity to expel the carbon dioxide quicker, that means that there's an imbalance in the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide in our system, and this can actually make us pretty dizzy or lightheaded as well. We can also experience a lot of digestive, GI tract type of discomfort. Maybe we're experiencing nausea or need to use the restroom a bit more. We just kind of feel uneasy or our stomach actually starts to hurt. This is because when we're in a protective mode, our body goes, all right, we don't need digestion anymore, so we're gonna slow that down or even turn it off. So everything starts to kind of shut down, and then there's just a lot going on down there that can make us feel a bit uneasy or, you know, have some physical pain. We also might need to urinate a bit more often or just expel bowel movements a bit quicker than we are used to because our body's trying to get rid of as much waste as possible. If we need to run away or if we need to fight, we don't want to hold on to that extra weight that our body has in the form of waste. So it's trying to get rid of that as quickly as possible just in case we need to be a bit lighter. And another one of the big ones that can be super uncomfortable, but we don't always acknowledge that this is happening until we go through maybe like a calming type of exercise or activity, like a progressive muscle relaxation or a body scan or a meditation or any number of the things that help us just to feel calm and relaxed. is muscle tension. Our body tightens so many of its muscles just trying to kind of brace and prepare for a fight or running away again. And so we can just hold on to a lot of that tension in our body without even knowing it. We almost get a little bit, not numb to it, but it just becomes the norm, right? And so we don't really realize that we're clenching our jaw or that our neck is getting super tight and stiff until we go through some type of relaxation training or technique. Alrighty, so to recap just a little bit, we went through some of those uncomfortable physical sensations, and now hopefully you guys can see that all of this discomfort comes with a purpose. Your body's just doing everything that it can to protect you, to keep you safe, and to ensure your survival. While these things are very uncomfortable when we're experiencing them, they're not dangerous to us. They're actually trying to help us. The healing and the relief that we're after here does not come from getting rid of this protective mechanism. It actually comes from changing our relationship to the anxiety itself while acknowledging that this empowering truth that anxiety is trying to help us. It's not some monster that's trying to take away all of our peace. If this information has been helpful to you guys at all, just let me know by leaving a comment or hitting that like button. And of course, always feel free to let me know if there are things that you want to learn more about. And I'm happy to answer questions to the best of my ability and just make more videos like this to answer some of those questions or whatever else might be beneficial. Sticking with this theme of, the truth about anxiety and all of the things that can actually help and heal anxiety. I'm going to continue with that in my next educational talking type of video, and we can go into, how do we actually kind of calm our anxiety and learn how to feel safe, or rather, how do we tell our brain that we are safe? So I'm going to go into some different tools and tips and strategies and all of the good stuff in some future videos, so stay tuned for those, and I hope you guys have an awesome week, and I will see you in my next video.